Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me for today's video. We are going to be doing a bookshelf scavenger hunt, only we won't be doing it with a physical bookshelf. We will be doing it with my Kindle bookshelf. And the reason we're doing it this way is I'm actually pet sitting my parents' cats this weekend. So I do not have any of my physical books here. I'm at their house. So we are going to try this out and see how it goes with my Kindle bookshelf. I have over 2,000 books on my Kindle that I have not read yet that I've accumulated over like the last 11 years. And I felt that was a little bit much to go through during the scavengers hunt. So I've narrowed it down to 150 books that I have not read, plus an additional 50 books that I have read to use for the prompts in this game. And we're going to see how this works out. I have no idea. I haven't tried this out. Hopefully this goes well. But we're going to find out together and see how this goes. So let's get started. I have 45 minutes until noon. My parents' cat is a very time-driven cat. So as soon as it is noon, he is going to want fed. He doesn't have very much patience either. So I'm hoping to have this part recorded by that time. Otherwise, we are going to be entertained by a lot of meowing. All right, let me pull up my list of prompts. We're going to be using my phone to scroll through our Kindle books, and let's get this started and we'll go from there. All right, I have 10 prompts we are going to go through that are inspired by the first bookshelf scavenger hunts I've watched on YouTube, which were by Riley Marie and Ellen Catherine. And I'm looking forward to see how well they work for the Kindle bookshelf. So let's get this started. All right, to choose the book we are going to start out with, we'll be spinning a color wheel and we will choose a book that has a cover in that color. And that is how we're going to start this game. So let's bring up a color wheel and see how this goes. All right, here is our color wheel. I do realize that the slices don't match the color they say on them, so that makes it even, more complicated, but that's fine. So let's go ahead and spin it, see what book color cover we will be starting this scavenger hunt out with. Here we go. All right, I don't really care which color it is, but it's going to be yellow. Hopefully I have some of those on the list we'll be using. Let's take a look. All right, here is our 200 books on the screen. I'm going to try to put it over here. I'm going to lean to this side to hopefully be able to fit it. So let's scroll down. Find our first book that has a yellow cover, and we'll go from, actually we should start with the book that we read, which are all the way at the bottom. So let's scroll to the bottom. We are at the bottom of our Kindle scavenger hunt book list. These are all the books I read, and I already see the yellow book that we can go with. Why not start with the 7-Year Slip? That was a fun romance read that I finally got around to reading, I think earlier this year. I think I read it as part of my romance reading game. I'm not sure. But definitely enjoyed it. So we're going to start with this one and let's go to our next prompt. All right, so prompt number 1 is to find a book that has a similar color scheme. So we have yellows, mostly all yellows, with some white words with the, blue outline, and then some orangish, reddish people on it. So let's see if we can find a similar cover with that color scheme. All right, the rose code could be one. We have white letters with a yellow background and the person is reading red, so that could be a very good option. Finny and One for the Money have yellow, but not much else in line with it. Same with the Hunger Games. We got the gold, but we don't have like the white letters. All right, I think the rose code is our best choice. I really enjoyed the Rose Code. It was a story based on the code breakers at Bletchley Park. If you've watched my videos before, you know that's a time period that I absolutely love reading about the code breakers. And I thought that was definitely a fun historical fiction novel. Definitely long, but I really enjoyed the characters in the book and learning more about Bletchley Park, as well as the mystery that was kind of being solved throughout the book. But anyway, we're not reading that one today, so let's move on to our second one. So we need to use a random number generator to choose a random page and then a random line on that page. We are going to find a book that uses a word in that line in the title of the book. All right, let's first see how many pages this book is. All right, so the actual book is 621 pages long. So let's ask Siri, I guess, to choose a random number. We're going to go from 0 to 622 because I don't know if she includes those numbers or not. as far as like 1 and 621. So let's ask Siri for a random number between 0 and 622.
That would be 443.
All right, so let's turn to page 443. Oops, stop talking. All right, so let's turn to page 443. I just realized how much fun this is going to be to edit because obviously I don't want to put spoilers on the screen over here. So I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do with that in the editing process. But that's a future me problem. All right, I am at page 443. All right, let me count the lines real quick and we'll choose a random line next. All right, I'll be right back. All right, there are 71 lines, so let's again ask Siri to choose a number between 0 and 72. Hey Siri, can you choose a number between 0 and 72?
It's 31.
All right, 31. Let me go count one more time. All right, I highlighted the line so we can remember it. And it says, no one gives you dirty looks because. So we have to find a book that has one of these words in it, which I think is not going to be too hard because we have you, we have one, we have no. I already know I have a book that has one on it because I saw it when I was scrolling before. So let's bring up our book list again and see what books we can find. So no one because give. All right, no one gives you dirty looks because. Let me know if you see something in here. One for the money, so that's one. No one gives you dirty looks because. Good for you. We could use that one. When you had power. All right, let's just use one for the money because I have read that. So if we have to go into the book, I at least know what it's about. So one for the money is our choice right up here. And let's see what our next prompt is. All right, so next up, we have to reverse the page number of the book and find a book with the reverse page number. So let's see how many pages this book is. We are going to do that through the book details section, just to keep it consistent. And this book is 352 pages. So we have to find a book that is 253 pages. This could take a while because I just realized I can't look at the book to guess how many pages it is. So I'll be back. Why not? We'll try Finney first. 253 is what we're going for. 386. No. All right, let's start at the bottom. I know some of these books are short. Highland Fling was rather long. Puck and Prejudice I felt wasn't that long, but I think it's over 200. 316, so closer. Their Last Resort was a pretty quick read as well. It's another romance book. 252. All right, that may be the one we're going with. I don't know if we're going to get closer than one page away. All right, the fantasy books are usually a little bit longer. Rendezvous with Rama is pretty short. It's not going to pull up the pages, so we're not going to go with that one, I guess. Let's see. What else do we got here? Hunger Games, obviously long. These are books I haven't read, so I'm not sure. All right, let's just go with the 252, which was Their Last Resort. This was a fun romance read that took place, I forget where in the Caribbean, but it was I just remember really enjoying it. It was definitely a good summer read. And I just remember how much the two characters kind of drove each other crazy throughout the book. And yeah, I definitely enjoyed that read. All right, let's see what prompt we'll be doing next. All right, we are on prompt number 4, which is to find a book that has similar elements on the cover. Great. This is not going to be hard at all. All right, so here's our cover. We have a sunrise or sunset in the background with the water. We have some palm trees. And then, of course, we have a male and a female being a romance novel. So Let's see if we can find something similar. I don't know if we will, but we're going to do our best. Here we go. All right, we got Puck and Prejudice and The Earl Next Door. No sunrise, no sunset, no water, but we got the male and the female on the cover, so that's a start. Good for You is pretty close. We got the ocean and we have a male and a female, so we got 2 out of the 3. We don't have like the sunrise or the palm trees, but that's we're getting somewhere with that one. These are a lot of fantasy books we're scrolling through now. Not so much the romance that we need, probably. Happily Ever After, not quite, because there's 4 people on the cover, no sunrise, no sunset. Bummer Camp, we have a sunrise, sunset with water, but no people. We're doing so good here. The Love Theorem, we have 2 people in the night sky, so not sunrise or sunset. All right, Diving In, we have 2 people, an ocean, a palm tree, and a sand, but we don't have a sunrise, sunset. But I think that may be our closest so far because we have most of the elements. We're only missing that one. Checklist, no. Seat filler, no. Happy Place, too many people. All right, Plotting Summer, again, we have palm trees, 2 people, the ocean, or water at least. And that looks more like a sunrise, sunset. So Plotting Summer, that may be the one. All right, we ran out. All right, so let's bring up these 2 covers. So here's Plotting Summer. I'm going to put up here, and then right below it, we'll put The Last Resort. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good match. We're going to go with it. So Plotting Summer is our next book. Plotting Summer, I haven't actually read yet. It is on my TBR this month, but I ended up reading the physical book for whatever prompt I got for that one. So it will definitely be pushed off to another month. But let's go ahead and see what our next prompt is. That was actually prompt 5. I miscounted. So we're on prompt number 6 now. Find a book that starts with the most common consonant or vowel in the previous title. All right, so we have Plotting Summer. We have 2 T's and 2 M's. So that's a tie. So we have to find a book that starts with T or M. I'm not including the because too many books start with the that makes this challenge too easy. So we're going with a book that starts with T or M, not including the. So let's start looking through our options. T or M. All right. Let's see what we got. Earl Puck. My Roommate is a Vampire. That's M. Tempest in the Tea Leaves. That's a T. So we got a mystery and a romance. I think we're gonna have a lot of options. These are pretty common letters. Funnily enough, Their Last Resort starts with a T. Can't go with the same book twice, though, so moving on. Temper. That's a T. The Testing is a T. Ooh, this... I'm gonna have to make a decision here. Touched by Magic. The Mote in God's Eye. Alright, there is a lot. What should I do? Let's go with Tempest in the Tea Leaves. Because it's a mystery book, and we haven't really had a mystery book yet, that I remember at least. So we'll go with that one, and I like the cover. It has a cat on it. What's not to like about it? So Tempest in the Tea Leaves will be our next book, so let's go to our next prompt. This book was a good mystery book. It's a pretty long series. I haven't read the rest of it. Is more like a cozy mystery about a woman. It's about a woman who moved out of New York City to another small town in New York and wants to kind of start anew. She's a psychic, so she sets up a shop, and then she ends up getting involved in a murder where she helps the detective Mitch Stone to try to solve the murder. So it's a good, cozy mystery. All right. Moving on to book 7, which is again to use a random number generator to choose the random page, random line, then random word. Then we're going to count the letters in that word and choose a book that has a title with that number of words. All right, here we go. Good thing I chose a book I already read. All right, I'm going to open it up. All right, first off, we need to find how many pages this book actually has. Oh, that's the epilogue, so that would be the end of the book. Perfect. All right, 293 pages. All right, let's ask Siri between 0 and 294. Hey Siri, can you give me a number between 0 and 294?
The answer is 198.
All right, page 198. Okay, so 198, let me count the lines. I'll be back with you guys in a minute. All right, this page has 47 lines. So let's do a number between 0 and 48. Hey Siri, choose a number between 0 and 48. Here we go.
It's 7.
7. Oh, good. I don't have to count too far this time. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words on this line. Hey Siri, choose a number between 0 and 9.
It's 1.
1. Perfect. Um, at. At is 2 words. So we just have to find a 2. At is 2 letters, rather. So we just have to find a title that has 2 words in it, one for each letter. So let's get back to our list and start scrolling. All right, here we go. And the does count for this part. All right, Puck and Prejudice is 3. Role playing, that's an option. The Betrayals is an option. The Spell Shop is an option. I love that book. We may go with that one. What else do we got here? Invisible Libraries 3. Tempers 1. Home Fire, that's an option. The Testing is an option. Black Chalk, Instant Attraction. All right, we got a bunch to choose from. Let's go with The Spell Shop. I love that book. That was such a good cozy fiction fantasy book. And the prequel to it has just come out, or has recently come out. I definitely want to pick that up for the fall, for cozy reading once, the weather starts, not being 80, 90 degrees out. So we'll go with that one. I love this book, and I am excited to see what our next prompt is that we'll be choosing from this book. All right, we have to do a author that shares the same name as someone in the acknowledgments. All right, let's bring up the acknowledgments. I don't know. I always love this prompt. I always have a lot of fun with this one. All right, here are the acknowledgments. Okay, so this paragraph here is what we're going to focus in on, I think. So we're going to look for Andrea Somberg, Fisher, Allie, Diana Vega, Lulu Chen, Ezra Kim, Julia Bergen. All right, we got to remember these. Jim, Megan, Greg, Chris. That's a good one. All right, let's see what we got. Yana, Victoria, Bridget, Kathy, Carrie. Megan O'Russell wrote Inker and Crown. So that is the exact spelling. So that's what we're going to go with. If I don't find, oh, Julia Buckley. Julia was one with a dark and stormy murder. All right, so that's 2 we can choose between. Here's another Megan, A Wildflower in the Wind. All right, let's do, what shall we do? Let's do A Dark and Stormy Murder by Julia Buckley. Julia was one of the names in the acknowledgments. Let me double check one more time. All right, we'll do A Dark and Stormy Murder. This is a book I haven't read yet, but it is a cozy mystery book, which I'm looking forward to potentially reading this fall. But it's the first book in the Writer's Apprentice mystery series. All right, let's move on to our next prompt. All right, we need to choose a book that has the complementary colors of the cover of the book I just chose. That's fun. So this is gray, green, brown. So the complementary colors of green is red. All right, so brown is like a orangey color, so like a blue color. There isn't really a complementary color of gray. So we're going to look for like a reddish blue cover, I guess. That's what we're going to go with. because that's the best I can do. So Good For You has some blue and red. That's kind of like a complementary color. What else do we got here? This is hard. I mean, Divine Rivals has some blue, no red though. This is the Moon in the Water, maybe? We got some blue, we got a little bit of red. Maybe some gray. Pike Island, we got a little bit of blue, some red. I don't even know. This one is a difficult one. I definitely did not choose the great book for this prompt. House Rules, we got some blue, some red, and some like darker gray, which could be kind of the opposite. We're gonna go with House Rules. We got kind of like the blue color going on. We got the red, which would be the opposite of the green grass, and then the gray complementary color we can say is that like that black color. I think that is the one we will go with, because I don't think we're gonna find a better option. Except Lady Helena Investigates. Well, it has like the green in it though. Alright, we're just gonna go with House Rules by Calvin Naragi, which is like kind of like a mystery horror book. And we're just gonna leave it at that. That will be our book choice. That is as close as I'm going to get. And we're gonna move on to our final prompt that's gonna choose the book we're going to read, which is to find a book with the same number of letters in the title. Alright. So the House Rules has the, which is 3, House, which is 5, Rules, which is 5, which is 13. So we have to find a title that has 13 pages, and that is the book we are going to read. So let's see what we got. All right, The Raven Tower, that has 13 by Anne Leckie. Let's take a quick look, see what this one is about and how long it is. 465 pages, not terrible. So this is a fantasy book. Okay, so that is an option. Let's see what other options we have. The Calling Trials is definitely over 13. Not in Love is less than 13. Voice of the Ocean, over. That's over. Freshman Witch. Phantasma, definitely not. Isle of Ever is 10. That was closer. Paris Chapter is too many. Society of Lies is too... Well, wait, maybe? No, Society of Lies has 13 letters. I have been wanting to read this. This is a dark academia book. That's set in Princeton. So that is definitely an option. One Dark Spark is not enough. The Right Place does have 13 pages. So that's The Right Place is an option, but I think I would rather read Society of Lies. That one looks like a romance book. Nothing wrong with romance. Obviously, I read that, but not really in the mood for that right now. The Book of Doors is too much. Skyward. The Seat Filler is 13, but again, that's a romance book I'm not really in the mood for. I'm also looking for a science fiction book, which Nine Fox Gambit is. Alright, so Nine Fox Gambit is definitely an option. This is the first book in the Machineries of the Empire, and this book follows Captain Calcharis of the Hexarchate, who has been disgraced for her unconventional tactics, and she has now been given a chance to redeem herself by retaking the Fortress of Scattered Needles from the heretics. So that's a good one. I do need a space book for my monthly prompt for the science fiction fantasy challenge that I'm doing, and that I didn't get onto my TBR, so that would definitely be an option. Pike Island is too short. We're running out of options. Woke Up Like This is too long. Too many letters. The Wrong Stars, that's 13. Also a science fiction book. I think I like the other one better because I think it's also on my 25 books reading 2025 list, the Nine Fox Gambit. These are all really long letters. Inker and Crown is technically fine, but the other books I would rather read at this point that we found. It's 12 for Divine Rivals. All right, these are the books I've read starting with the Hunger Games. So I think the book we're gonna go with is Nine Fox Gambit. It's been a while since I've read a good science fiction book set in space, so I'm excited about that. And I'm pretty sure I'll be knocking off a 25 books to read in 2025 list as well, which is amazing. So I'm gonna get to reading, and I will check back in with you and let you know how it's going in a little bit. It is noon this afternoon. So I need to go get my parents' cat fed as well. And yeah, I'll be back in a little bit. I think that game using the Kindle bookshelf went pretty well. We'll see how it goes in editing. I'm a little bit nervous about that part, but hopefully this video will turn out good. So I'll see you guys in a little bit and check in once I have gotten probably about a third of the way through the book. So I'll see you guys soon. All right, I am back. It's 9:30 at night. That's why this camera lighting is not great. I forgot to bring a light with me, but we're just going to go with it for now. Hopefully this is the only time I'm recording at night here, but I just wanted to touch base before I start getting ready for bed. That I am nowhere near 30% of the book. I am at 14% of the book currently, and that's not because I'm not enjoying it. There's two reasons. The first reason is the beginning of the book is super confusing, and we'll get to that. The second reason is I was kind of watching a TV program that was taking part throughout the day today, and I got distracted by that rather than reading the book. Now back to this book. This book, the beginning of this book, is super confusing. If you're starting on your science fiction journey and want to try it out, this is not the book that I would start out with, because this book, the first couple chapters of the book are very confusing, and it's very hard to figure out what exactly is going on. And not all science fiction books are like that. And it would be very easy just to stop reading in the first couple of chapters because it is quite confusing. Not knowing kind of the system, the world, the empire. There's some world building, but you're kind of learning about it as things play out, and there's a lot of terms that are being thrown around that you don't know about yet, and you learn later on. Well, I'm only 14%. There's still a lot I don't know, but at least some of the terms that I was confused about, I have learned what they mean so far. So it's hard to get engaged in the first couple of chapters because there's all these terms that are being thrown at you that you have no idea what they mean, and it kind of throws you off for a bit. I'm starting to catch up on what actually is going on, and my interest is definitely starting to heighten. And I am more excited to read the book at this point than I was in the first couple of chapters of the book, so that is good. This is usually where I'll kind of explain what the book is about, but that's going to be very difficult. I will let you know what I know at the moment. Sorry. I am recording this in my parents' house. There is a big window to the left of me that faces the road, and it's dark out, so I am just imagining people looking in wondering what the heck I am doing, but that's okay. We're going to continue on. So, this book follows the main character, Kel Charisse, and it is set in this world that is ruled by this empire that is divided into 6 factions. Each faction is associated with an animal, and the main character's faction are the Kells, which is associated with the Ashhawk and Flames, and this is the military faction, really. This is a faction that is going to go out and control the people that are against the empire. They don't actually call it. I guess it is an empire. It says machineries of empire. I don't know if it's actually an empire or not, but that is the faction that she is a part of. We are thrown right into the story right at the beginning of the book. We are on this world where there are these heretics that are living, that are kind of the enemies of this empire. And it is up to Kel Cherie. She is the commander of several companies, or squadrons rather. I think she's a company commander, not that that matters. Anyway, and her company, as well as several others, have been tasked with the goal of getting this generator that is on the planet. But other people who are living on this planet obviously don't want them to do that. So there's fighting going on, and her company ends up being the only surviving one. And that's partially due to her ability to do math, because their protection that they can use to kind of protect themselves from weather and other things is all done based on math and calendar. It's kind of like a magical system within a science fiction book, which is kind of unique. But I don't know a lot about the magical system at this point, so it's really hard to explain. Basically, I know it's based on a calendar system, and when what the enemies are trying to do is to change the calendar system because then it will affect the strength of the empire when there's a different calendar system in use. That's about you're probably as confused as I am right now because that is about where I am as far as understanding what in the world is going on. Anyway, she survives that. Not really spoiler because obviously she's the main character throughout the rest of the book. And she is taken back to the ship, the big ship, I guess, they call it the Mothhawk ships. And there she has been told that she's being given this whole other task of going to the needle, somewhere in space, the foundation of needle, something like that, because that may be undergoing calendar rot. And if that happens, then the whole empire is going to fall apart. That's the basis of my understanding of what's going on right now. So yeah, definitely very confusing at the beginning. I'm slowly starting to pick up on things. But boy, this is one of the more confusing starts of a book that I have ever read. I'm hoping that the rest of the book goes better. I can say that I am enjoying where I am right now a lot more than I was enjoying the beginning of this book, and my interest is starting to get engaged, starting to heighten. Um, but yeah, definitely if you're a brand new science fiction reader, this is definitely not a book I would start out with to judge the science fiction universe by. That's not to say that this book is going to be bad because I'm definitely starting to enjoy it, but I would start off on a book that explains things a little bit better than this one does at the beginning of the story. So that is where we are now. I am going to get back to reading it and I'll check back in with you probably when I'm about halfway through the book and we'll kind of see how things are going at that point. I am enjoying the main characters, or I am enjoying the main character. We haven't really had any character building other than her. We've met some other characters, but nothing that really like sticks out. They haven't really been built to the point that I feel like I know who they are outside of this main character. So we'll see if that changes as well. We still haven't met this person who went mad or whatever. I assume he was a person who went mad. So I'm definitely interested to see when he comes into play, hopefully by the time I talk to you guys next. So that is where we are. I will get back to you. Like I said, at the halfway point, I'm going to turn off the camera now because I'm getting self-conscious because even though it's 9:30 at night, I've already seen a person and a couple cars will drive by. So don't need any more people looking in through this big picture window at me. So I'll see you guys in a little bit, probably tomorrow. I'll see you guys then. All right, I am back to give you a update on how Nine Fox Gambit is going, and I will say is going better than it started. Once I got past, I think chapter 4, things started to make a little bit more sense. They clicked a little bit more. Not to say that there weren't still confusing parts in the book, but I was able to kind of follow the gist of the plot, which was great, and found myself getting a lot more into the story. So I have enjoyed the relationship between the two main characters, which are Kel Charisse and Jadal, who is the madman that got almost reincarnated in the beginning of the story and who's going to kind of mentor Charisse as they try to take over this fortress that has been overrun by the heretics. It's been fun to see how Charisse has been taking Jadal's advice because she doesn't know a lot about him, only what she's been taught when she went to the Kel Academy, the military academy basically, and that is that he was a madman who went crazy and pretty much killed his entire command as well as the people that they were fighting. And so she doesn't know how much of his guidance that she should entertain, how much of it she should kind of throw away. And she has trouble kind of figuring out if he is trying to take advantage of his connection with her or if what he's saying is true and is really for the best of the empire. So she kind of has all these different thoughts going in her head as Jajal gives her advice, some of which she agrees with, some of which she kind of questions. But she has to kind of make these decisions on her own because of the way that Jadal was brought back to life. It's kind of on her which direction that she goes, whether she trusts in his advice or whether she goes in a different direction. I've also enjoyed the characters on their own of Charisse and Jadal. It's been really fun kind of seeing the the personalities of the two characters come out. Charisse, while being she's not very high ranked in um the Kel group, but she now kind of has command of a entire mission, big mission, because of her connection with Jadal, and we kind of see her growing with that. She's also a mathematician, which typically people in the Kel are not. They are more the military type people. Not that military cannot be, mathematicians. It's just that in this universe, the mathematicians are usually in a different faction, not in the Kel. So it's been kind of interesting to see how she herself has fit into the Kel, um, because she's also a little bit more of a outside thinker. In the Kel, you're expected to follow these formations. It's called formation instinct, and if your commander says to do something, you pretty much have to do it without, because you can't fight that instinct. And she kind of questions some of that as she, went up the ranks, and of course where she is now, she questions how she's using it herself as the commander, but also how it's been used on her kind of in the past. So yeah, so overall I'm enjoying the book much more now that I kind of have a basis of the groundwork that has been laid out, and I kind of understand a little bit more about what's going on, who the different factions are, what they are out to accomplish. And I think the relationship between Jadal and Charisse has also helped because you get a lot of explanation through that relationship alone. So let me go and finish the book, and then I will be back and let you know where we are, or not where we are because we'll be finished, and let you know my final thoughts on it. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. All right, I am back and I have finished Nine Fox Gambit by Yuhan Lee. And overall, I was surprised after how it started, but I actually ended up enjoying it. Was it my favorite ever book ever? No. But I really did enjoy the plot. It was very unique and not something that I really read before, this whole universe that the author set up. So, like I said before, the beginning of the book is super confusing. The first 4 chapters, I had absolutely no idea what was going on. But after those 4 chapters, which kind of give a little bit of a background into this universe in a very kind of scattered way, the book started to make a lot more sense, and I definitely enjoy the middle of the book as well as the way that the book ended. This is definitely a military science fiction book. It's military almost to its core. Most of the middle of the book are tactics and fighting and setting in troops and, trying to figure out what the enemy is doing. There's a whole lot of military stuff going on in there. And it's also not sugar coated at all. There's people, being sacrificed basically. And there's a lot of gruesome, well, not a lot, I would say. There are some, there are some gruesome descriptions in the book as well. Just, as a warning. So things I ended up liking about this book, like I said before in my previous update, was the relationship between Kel Charisse and Jadal. I don't know if I'm pronouncing those names right. Um, I really enjoyed how the relationship kind of changed and grew throughout the book, and how they kind of played off of each other almost, and each of them were trying to figure out who the other person was. That was especially important for Charisse because she was basically, the general of this command that was going in to retrieve the fortress from the heretics, which means that all the tactical situations, all the big decisions that were being made were on her. And she had to try to figure out how much she trusts Jadal to help her with these tactics. If he was trustworthy, if he was not trustworthy. He has that history of, taking out his own command at one point in his career. But he was also known as the general that never lost a battle. So she had to kind of figure out if what he was telling her was something that she should try, or if she should kind of be using her own mind to figure out the best way to regain control of this fortress. So that little interplay between the two was very kind of fun to read, very interesting to read, the thought processes between the two characters. So the other thing I liked about this world were there were these kind of sentient machines, I guess. I'm not really sure, known as the servitudes. They kind of help run the ships that these characters were on. You start to learn a lot more information about them as the book went on, but I did feel that some of that information hasn't come to a conclusion. This is the first book in a trilogy, so I'm wondering if some of that stuff that I learned will take place at a later time. My cat is trying to jump on the chair. Preza, I'll be right back. I have to help my cat onto her chair because I took away her table that she can jump on, so I'll be right back. It's the fun of having a 17-year-old cat is that, they're not as limber or graceful as they used to be, so sometimes need a little extra help. But she's on her chair now. She's happy. She's having a bath. All right, where were we? We were, the servitudes. So they are sentient, like I said. They kind of have their own language as well. And most of the people on board these ships just kind of ignore them, thinking, they're going to go about and do their tasks and don't realize that there's actually a lot more to them than they appear. So you kind of learn a little bit about that throughout the book as well. Some things in this book remain confusing throughout. I had a lot of trouble keeping track of the secondary characters. And it was sometimes I found myself confused about whether we were with the heretic, because sometimes you would get their viewpoint, or if we were still with what were known as the loyalists to the empire. And sometimes that got a little confusing trying to figure out where I was. The time leaps were also a little confusing as well, where things, happen and then we found ourselves jumping forward a lot. So sometimes I had trouble figuring where I was from that standpoint as well. Um, but again, I think that is some of the stuff that reading this book a second time through would definitely help with, is figuring out these time jumps, these time leaps, the little details that you don't get. So that's why I think reading this book a second time through, you would get a lot more information out of it, because you'll understand these little time situations, you'll recognize the characters a little bit more, and you'll have this background of this universe that you don't have when you first start out reading the book. So I think I would get a lot more details out of the story if I read it again and kind of, find little hints and things there that I missed my first time through. So yeah, overall, this was definitely a interesting book. The universe was very unique. I haven't read a universe like this before, and it was very kind of complicated, and I still feel like I'm missing a lot of how this universe works. I love the calendar aspect of it, that the almost magic was based on the calendar, and it mattered whether your calendar, had a 7-day, was based on a faction was based on 7, or if it was based on 5, or it was based on 8, it meant that certain things were going to work differently depending on what the calendar was based on. I thought that was interesting. I also enjoyed the society that the author set up with the 6 kind of different factions. You had your Kells, which were, the military. You had another faction that was kind of the assassins almost. You had a faction that was the mathematicians, the number people. You had another faction that was kind of like the social area. I can't remember what the other ones were, but that was also interesting. And the reason that there were 6 factions was that the calendar was based on a factor of 6. There used to be 7, but the 7th faction had got kicked out for heresy, and that is why they were down to 6, and that is why they were always on the lookout for people going against the Empire. The ending of the book definitely laid ground for what the second book is going to be about, so I'm definitely interested in reading the second book, and like I said, it is a trilogy, so this is definitely a trilogy I'm gonna wanna get through because of the uniqueness of the plot, the uniqueness of the society, the characters, and I can't wait to see what happens in that second book. I'm debating whether I want to reread the first book before I get into the second, or if I just wanna jump into the second, so I'm gonna think about that, before I play my next TBR game just in case the second book ends up in there. Um, but yeah, like I said, overall I enjoy it. There are definitely some triggers in the book to be aware of. And like I said, I think in the beginning of this video, almost after I read like the first 14%, this is not a military science fiction book I would start my science fiction reading in because of how kind of confusing the beginning is. And even throughout the book, there's a lot of different confusing places in it. But if you do enjoy military kind of science fiction and good world, I wouldn't say world building because there's still a lot unknown, but a good, unique world. This may be a book to check out. It did win the Locus Award for Best First Novel, and it also was nominated for the Nebula and the Hugo. So that is all I have for Nine Fox Gambit. I am very glad that I ended up reading this book, and I'm also happy because it's a book on my 25 books to read in 2025 list. So I knocked another one of those out. I need all the help I can get with that list because I think I've now read 6 books out of the 25, and we're down to the last 4 months of 2025, so we'll see how that goes. My last video coming out in August will obviously be my September TBR video. That will come out next Friday, hopefully, as long as I get things done in time. And I cannot wait to see what is on that TBR as we head into the fall months. I'm super excited about that. So that is all that we have left in August, and I'll let you know what videos to expect in September after we complete our September TBR. So check out that video when it comes out. And thank you again for joining me for this video. I definitely appreciate it. Let me know if you've read Nine Fox Gambit, what your thoughts are about it. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you want to just let me know that you have watched this video. Is there a fox emoji? Let me look. I think there is. Drop a fox emoji below for Nine Fox Gambit. You can also, I guess, drop a bird because the main character, Kel Cherise, came from a planet where ravens were like the animal, I guess. So you can drop that as well. If you want to see future videos from me, including my September TBR video that will come out next week, and then the videos I'm planning in September, which will be a bunch of reading games, please hit that subscribe button. Once again, I appreciate all of you for watching my video, and I will see you in my next one. Take care. Bye.